my name is Emma and today I'm giving you guys my full wrap-up for the Biannual Bibliothon 2015. As I'm sure a lot of you guys know, I just hosted a readathon this past week from the 21st to the 27th. It was a ton of fun. I got so much reading done, and throughout that week I was posting reading updates, but I like to have a full wrap-up just so you guys can get my total thoughts on it because they're all broken up across the 7 days. So that's what you guys are getting today. So the first book that I have read during this readathon is Paper Towns by John Green. For each biannual bibliothon, we pick a group book that we can all read together as a readathon, and then we have a live show at the end of the week, and I will post the Paper Towns live show in the description so you guys can watch it. So this was the first book I read because I wanted to make sure it was done by the live show, and I have to say, I freaking loved this book. 5 out of 5 stars to Paper Towns, 100%. I am so not a big John Green. It takes me a while to really say that I love a John Green book because normally right after I finish it I really don't like it, but that was not the case with Paper Towns. Right off the bat I really enjoyed this book. It is definitely my favorite John Green book. I don't know what it was, it was very exciting for the most part, and I really liked the characters and I just liked the plot of it all together, and I had a ton of fun reading it this week. Before I can even tell you guys the rest of the books that I read, this was probably my favorite book of the week. Then the next book I read was The Evil We Love by Cassandra Clare. The Evil We Love completed the challenge for read a novella, a prequel, or a companion novel. Obviously, it is one of the newest Mortal Instruments novellas. I gave The Evil We Love 5 out of 5 stars as well. I said in my reading update for the day that I read The Evil We Love that I didn't like it as much as I liked the previous one's novella, but I think this is probably my favorite of the Mortal Instruments novellas so far. I just loved reading about the circle. Like, I thought it was the coolest thing because we're always hearing about the circle and the uprising, and now we're actually seeing it from that point of view. I love the interactions between the characters that are already existing in the Mortal Instruments that are in the Shadowhunter Academy Chronicles, whatever you want to call them, Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy. I'm losing my mind. The only thing I didn't like was that it kind of made me sad at some points, and anyone who has read it knows why I'm sad. But in the end, it all resolved, and I'm really happy with the ending of that stupid little novella, so this is definitely my favorite of that one so far. Then the next book I read was A Work in Progress by Connor Franta. This book completed the challenge for read a book from a genre you've read the least of this year, and I picked memoirs, biographies, that whole kind of thing. I really love Connor Franta's YouTube videos. I only started watching them after BookCon because I had seen Connor at BookCon when he was talking about this book, and it totally made me want to read all of the new YouTubers' memoirs. I really enjoyed this book. I flew through it. All of these first 4 books, this is the 3rd book that I'm going to show you, I read in one sitting because they were all so good. They were very short, but they were so good, so I just couldn't put them down, and I really, really enjoyed this book. Favorite thing about this book, hands down, is Connor's photography. Connor is a vlogger, but he's really, really into photography, and he takes these gorgeous photos, and there's a ton of them in here, and I just really liked the way this book laid out. I like the stories he shared, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to a lot of things he talks about. So I would definitely recommend giving this book a shot, and I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars as well. Then the 4th book that I read for the Biannual Bibliothon is Cupid Doesn't Flip Hamburgers by Debbie Dady and Marcia Thornton-Jones. I read this for Read a Book from Your Childhood. Mentioned this a million times on my channel that I loved the Bailey School Kids series when I was younger. I used to have all of them and they all got lost when I moved, so I bought this one specifically for the Biannual Bibliothon because it was always my favorite, and if you ever ask me just anything with Bailey School Kids, I see this cover and I think of this book, and I just really enjoyed it. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. It's definitely weird reading these books that I loved as a kid from this point of view. The last time I read these I was 16 because it was during the Hurricane Sandy that hit New York, and like there was nothing to do and these were one of the only books that I had at the time. So I read it and it was definitely like weird to read now, so it wasn't like, you know, the best book I've ever read at 19 years old, but it was totally nostalgic because I remember reading this in like my 2nd grade classroom, and I've read it so many times over the years and I really enjoyed it. Then the 5th book I read for the Biannual Bibliothon was The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. I read this for a book that you DNF'd or did not finish. It wasn't that I didn't like this book that I put it down. I was reading it actually with the girls who were hosting the Biannual Bibliothon. We were reading it as our own little personal book club, and I was reading it at the end of May when BookCon was coming, so I was just super distracted with A, getting ready for that, B, reading all the authors that I wanted to meet at BookCon, so I just didn't have time to finish it then. And also this is the only book that I've ever DNF'd, so I really didn't have a lot to choose from for that challenge. And because I had just recently started it, and I was only like halfway through, I didn't feel the need to restart the book, so I only read the last half of it. But honestly, exactly where I left off when I stopped reading it, the book got so exciting and so much better. Like, I was really enjoying it at first. It's totally not like anything I've read before. So it was a little weird reading it at first, and a little weird getting into the world, because to me it's like high fantasy, but it's in a contemporary world, so it's like contemporary high fantasy, which is not a genre whatsoever. So it's just really, really unique, and that's what I liked about it, and in the end, it was just super interesting. Like, it got crazy, and so much stuff happened, and there was like, whoa, plot twist! So I am really happy that I finished this book, and I ended up giving it 4 stars in the end. Then the 6th book that I read for the Biannual Bibliothon was Ruby Red by Kirsten Gear. This completed the challenge for a book that takes place in a country different than your own, and this takes place in London, which is in the UK, which is obviously not in America. I didn't love this book. I just feel like I read it at the wrong time because there was just so much information and like so much history that had to be revolved around this story, and when you're in a readathon you kind of just want to fly through books and read something that's like very fun, and this is definitely a little bit heavier than the books that I've read just because of all the history, and it's one of the only fantasy books I read. But I did really enjoy it for the most part. I'm totally continuing with this series. I think it's a really interesting concept, but like I said, it just wasn't time for me to read it, so I'll probably take a break and then I'll pick up the next book in the series. But I gave it 4 stars, so it turned out to be pretty good. And then the final book that I read during the Biannual Bibliothon was All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. This completed the challenge for read a book about a social issue that you were really passionate about, and I picked mental illness. I have to say I was less than satisfied with this book as well. I kind of don't want to say it was my least favorite of the readathon, but I think it was. I was just expecting a lot more from it, and in the beginning I just had a lot of problems with like the chemistry between the characters, and I just had a lot of problems with the characters in general. I really did like the ending though. It totally made an impact on me. You know, I think it was the right ending for the book, which is super important to me. I can totally see why so many people love this book. You know, maybe just again, I just wasn't the right time for me to read it. So I ended up giving this book 3.5 to 4 stars as well. Like I said, still a really good book. I just wasn't in love with it. So these are all of the books that I read during the Biannual Bibliothon. I would love to know what you guys thought about your books if you participated with us. But generally, I am really happy with everything I read. Again, didn't give anything less than a 3.5 or 4-star rating. So I really did have a really good week for reading, and I completed all the challenges and all of the books that I wanted to. But that's it for the wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always, if you've read any of these books that I mentioned, let me know your opinions on them, because now we can actually discuss it now that I've read them. But that's it for this video, and I will see you guys soon for a new one. Bye!